All right, let's just get started. My name's Autumn Sanderson, and I'm on here with Justina.
Hi.
And we both work for the University of Tennessee, the Health Science Center and Department of Audiology and Speech Pathology. We are both considered, um, we're in child hearing services. We work with children and adults who are deaf and hard of hearing. And then we also see some kids who are using their AAC devices. So we kind of collaborate on all of those.
hmm And that basically sums me up as well. I have a couple kids who don't have hearing loss with augmentative devices. But most of my caseload has some kind of hearing loss. But it's been interesting. I think Autumn can agree with me. In the last couple of years, we've had more and more kids with hearing loss who need way more communication needs than just getting amplification or cochlear implants or even sign language. It's been very interesting. I've had two kids who will not wear amplification and are deaf, and their parents are in the deaf community. But due to the autism, it's been very hard for, due to behavior or whatever is going on, the children haven't been imitating sign. And so I have been using devices with them, and they've been very readily labeling vocab and things like that. So it's been very cool to see what we can do even in the deaf culture with signing and with devices. So
Yes, absolutely. And our center, everybody's been kind of discussing how everything has looked since the onset of COVID. And we have, when everything shut down, we were all at home. We immediately started figuring out telehealth and all the resources out there. And there was a lot of trial and error, a lot of working through a lot of issues with our families. And so we are now at the point where some families who are choosing to come back in are doing so. So we're now doing some in-person sessions, but we're still continuing. I'd say I have about half of my caseload, maybe even more than half, is still on telehealth.
yeah, I'd say 75% of my caseload is still telehealth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Get this PowerPoint to work here for me. This is our statement of disclosure. We have no relevant financial relationships or non-financial. Just we are employed by the University of Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is what we're going to talk about today is basically the environment and just resources that we thought would be helpful for everybody who is dealing with this craziness that we're dealing with. But I think some of this has been really positive for some of our kids. But on ASHA, we have actually found a really cool checklist that you can use in your clinic, in your schools, or wherever you need. It's even just to hand to the parents and to say, like, these are the things that we need to have in order. But I just thought this was really nice that ASHA put this together. It talks about HIPAA. It talks about planning the therapy. I mean, I think Autumn and I have just planning how to actually have the session has made, we've had to put so much effort into this. But it's so cool that you can just check through this and say, okay, I've got this going, I've got this going, I've got this going. I think we're on a roll and we can just start up.
Yeah, I think it's kind of all inclusive. It's not necessarily geared towards any type of therapy. It's just some considerations for any type of telehealth that you might be doing, and some considerations that you need to kind of take into.
And even the follow-up task, I was looking at that. I was like, that's so good. You confirm date and time, that sounds so, because we're so used to being in the office and we get this printout of dates, or maybe we're in the school and, the child is used to coming to the classroom. But sometimes we're just so up in the air with COVID and everything that's going on. Like, of course, like we need to confirm this is the upcoming session and this is what the Zoom meeting is going to look like. So I even thought these follow-up tasks were really nice to have on hand.
Oh yeah, and setting and giving them reminders. A lot of times I will remind parents, especially if I know it's a family that has a lot going on. They tend to forget. I'll just send them a little reminder in the morning. See you at 9. So just some things to consider. And that, I don't know if you all saw how I got there, but it's on that ASHA's coronavirus COVID-19 updates page, and then you just come down here and click on the facilitator checklist. But it's in our PowerPoint. I'll get you back over to that now. There we go.
Okay.
All right. So the link is there for anybody who wants to access that.
Okay, so talking about I think this is the make or break for the session. The technology portion of just trying to have access to something that works for teletherapy. So before the first session, looking at what kind of device is the child using, is the family using, is it a phone, is it a tablet, is it a Chromebook, and just what I have shown helpful. If I know before the session what they're working on, then I'll know my limitations of what is going to happen or how far I can use all these features on Zoom. I know, like Autumn and I were talking about on a Chromebook, the child may not be able to see if they're, because we have students that are with us, so may not be able to see the student while I'm talking because will switch views on the picture. I had this one little girl who kept crying every time I would go off, and I said, why is she crying? She was doing so well. And then I figured out she couldn't see me anymore. And I was like her safety person during this beginning of teletherapy. And I had no idea that her picture was turning off and on through that.
Yeah. And another thing to consider too, if it's a phone, like how large are things going to be? If you're sharing your screen, your own face, if the child needs a lot of visual cues, how accessible is that going to be for them? And we're going to talk a little later too, but just even being able to move around the room. So sometimes it's to your advantage if it's just a phone or a tablet or something they can take with them versus having a desktop. So it's just something that knowing ahead of time what they're going to be using so that you can kind of plan your session towards that and be prepared for those different situations.
All right. And I have a patient right now. It wasn't me who advised the parent to do this. The parent did it all on her own, and I was so proud of her. But the patient is on an eye gaze device, and her mom was like racking her brain about how are we going to do this. And her mom bought a special prop to put on top of the client's device to hold her phone. And then on the back, she's got a table and it had a laptop. So then there were 3 different devices going on. And so so you can see like my name is popping up on the computer and on the phone in front. And just so there was accessibility to what we were doing, or maybe mom was focused on the client and she was, making eye contact. She could look behind her and look at the laptop on what I was doing, and I could coach her through that. But it was mind-boggling in the beginning. I was like, oh my gosh, she has 3 devices up right now to do this teletherapy session.
Yeah, and that's something else too. I think again, learning as we went. These were not things that I had thought of ahead of time, but some of our kids with cochlear implants, trying to have their devices Bluetooth in. So sometimes we had to have a laptop up and a phone up, and then I would have 2 devices as well. Like we would have to call each other. So trying to figure out how that was going to work and logistically how that would work for the families as well. And so, yeah, that was something else that we had to take into account.
Yes. Yeah.
And then obviously the Wi-Fi connection.
This has been a real fun one. I mean, I know that everybody works with kids who may be in low SES families, or they may be in a rural environment where there's just not access to this. And we have had to do a couple sessions where, and I know, and I don't know how everybody's billing and things like go. I have done quite a few sessions where I have not even charged a session because I felt like I didn't have a right to, because the technology wasn't there or the Wi-Fi connection was there. And so I spent a little bit of time just playing around with the parent and saying, okay, if you're close to the router, does this help out better? Does, is there 3 different other siblings in the room and they're all doing virtual school right now? That may not help our connection. Maybe we should ask for a different time of scheduling. And then Autumn, you were talking about the television apps.
Television apps, I have realized, would also pull bandwidth. I know when everything was happening at first, when my child was at home and my husband's working from home and we were all using it, I would have to tell my little boy, you're going to have to get off of your tablet while I'm doing therapy. And we would notice a big difference. So having parents even kind of troubleshoot at their home and say, okay, what do we have going on right now that may be taking bandwidth that we could turn off during these sessions, just to maximize, so that they can use their video and use their audio at the same time, and we're not having as much lag or cut out of the services. And and something else that we've worked through too is some of our families have actually identified places in their community that would allow them to come use their free Wi-Fi. Churches have allowed some of our families to go in and use their Wi-Fi for their sessions. There's also, I know that there were some companies, some of the internet companies that were giving reduced charges for services. And I don't know if you know more details about that, but I know we did have some families that were reaching out.
I do too, and I got with the OIT guy. I think a lot of that stuff may be severing off, but I do think that when there's a will, there's a way. And so I think that if they can get with the community centers and things like that, they've been able to get internet. Even the schools are being very generous, I think, with helping that through that process. And then access. So I know with my kids with AAC, some of them have very limited mobility. And so it was very overwhelming to think, okay, well, that's great. Zoom has, I can throw my remote and they can do the touch screen or the finger swiping, or maybe they have a mouse, but I had to really think through, like, how are they going to actually do this with me? So I had first mobility, and then I thought, okay, what do they have, or what does their parents use while they're facilitating the session? So, and of course, with our kids with less severe needs, if it's a mouse, okay, that's great. Then they have a lot of function. If it's finger swiping, they have even more if they have the touch screen. But I've found that the kids who have devices and I have mostly kids with an i110 with the touchscreen with Tobii Dynavox, and I found that they were really good at the touchscreen on it because they were so used to using their device anyway. So that was really cool for me to see during teletherapy.
All right.
Okay, so this has been the biggest dilemma for me, is the parent responsibilities, is just getting the device charged and updated is complete. I don't know about you guys, but in the last couple of weeks, I know that Tobii's made a lot of changes and they're great changes, but it seemed like every time we would do a session, they were like, it's updating again, please wait, and it's going round and round and round. And so I kind of wanted to be like, okay, guys, you knew I was coming. We could have turned on the device a minute ago. But we understand that, we want to be there for the parents. And so just patience with that. But I did try to make it clear, like, okay, just remember, we wanted to practice this activity. And while you're doing that, let's go ahead and make sure that all those updates are complete. And completed. Willingness to program. So I have a couple parents. I'm a very hands-on clinician, and I know that some parents, this is harder for them to handle than other parents, and some are savvier with tech than others. But so when we went to teletherapy, and I had two parents say, Justina, I've relied on you the whole time. And now I have to do this. And I had one parent say, I don't know if I can do this. And I said, if I can do this, you can do this. So they just have to be willing. And that's all I would tell them is like, you cannot mess anything up. You just have to be willing to work with me and figure this out. And, I'm going to sit there and we're going to walk through this programming. And, but it is hard when I think it took a couple sessions to realize where the parent was like, oh, I can do this. I don't necessarily need her to hold my hand through this. And now what I'm seeing is more use of their device with, and carryover activities at home and doing more functional things at home, because now the parents are more responsible for the kids' device, and they're better advocates for their kids now. So I do think that has been the coolest thing with teletherapy that I have seen. It's just been amazing. The other cool thing that I've seen is that some of my kids have such motor issues that leaving the house to get to therapy was, I don't want to say traumatic, but it's such a to-do, and your sensory system is taking all of this in, and you're checking in at the lobby, and then you're going down the hallway to go to my room, and then we get your device up. And I think that it takes a toll on a lot of our kids. And when they have been in their home environment using the device, I have seen them readily use it easily, where before I would have said, eye gaze is always going to be hard for them. I'm not sure if they're going to ever be able to touch the device on their own. But now I see their whole sensory system is just calm, and they can do a lot more things. And so there's some kids, if this all ever ends, that I may never go back, because I think that this may be the easiest option for them.
I agree. I've definitely seen a lot. The comfort level has gone up with the parent and the child. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I think has really helped with my families is that I now tell them ahead of time what their parent responsibility is. So they know, they're aware, they can fully take that responsibility. And I've seen them really take on the role of that therapist, which I think is helping them in their everyday carryover of their goals. I think the parent really has been able to take over that role. So I think just giving them the heads up as to what we expect, setting those expectations is very helpful. Mm-hmm. And that includes, everything from setting up the environment to having the materials out and ready. It may take I do think it's taking a little more work on the front end for the parent and the therapist to plan and make sure that everybody's on par with what is going to happen in the session. But once everybody figures out their roles and the parents have been able to kind of bring everything and have everything set up and ready, whether it's websites pulled up, the proper seating that we've discussed. And these are things that we've had to kind of figure out as we've gone. But now that they are aware of what their responsibilities are, I think it is really helping in the carryover of their goals every week. Mm-hmm. And then, so the SLP responsibilities, obviously one of them is to prepare that parent and make sure they are aware of what's going to happen in the session, what we're going to target, and all the materials and the resources and the programs and everything that we want them to have up. And again, it was a little overwhelming in the beginning, but I see so much more comfort coming now that everybody's been doing it for a while. Right. And then I think they like it.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I think that they feel better about doing everything. Mm-hmm. matching software, you know, when I was in the clinic, I always had another device, or I had my iPad, or I had something on hand. And when my office is in my bedroom, and I didn't have those things on hand, that I had to quickly figure out, how am I going to download the software? And I realized how many free trials were out there, and how many things that I was able to get my hands on, that now I can share my screen, and I can share, like with Snap, I can share my screen and go through programming with my parents, and things like that. So I think that's been very important. And again, like, this is something that I'll change in the future. Like, I don't necessarily have to have the I-110 to trial on, or to you know, model on. I can have that software already on my iPad and things like that. So things that are a little bit easier for me to do as a clinician now are obtained. Okay. Okay.
So now we're kind of talking about the home environment. So you think about what you have to prep for, you know, your technology, what everybody's responsibilities are, and then you have to kind of identify needs in the home environment, and so as well as yourself. So one of the biggest things that I identified was, who's at home, who's going to be involved, are there siblings at home? If so, can they be involved in the therapy? If it's too distracting, what are some things that the parent can have out for them to do? And so I've identified things with the parent, you know, whether it's coloring that they can do, they have an art activity, maybe we send two of what we're going to be working on, and the parent has both of them working on it together. That's definitely been something that we've had to work through, as far as limiting distractions and identifying what the distractions might be in the home. The TV, a lot of our kids being able to look out the window. I mean, animals have even been a distraction. So, you know, I had a family that the child was sitting in their sunroom, but the dogs and the cats and everything else were right out the window. And so she would spend most of her session staring out the window. And so we would have to identify, okay, so do we turn her a different direction? Do we need to go to a different room, to try to limit those external distractions? Seating, I know Justina had a child that was in a chair with wheels.
Yes. So I have a little one, you know, it's an office chair with the wheels, and you can turn, and he was just turning. I was like, this is not going to work. And so I had to tell mom, like, feet on the ground, and go get a kitchen chair, and no more office chair. And I love how they were in a special spot for the office, but it was not an appropriate chair for him. It's just these things that, you know, your clinic rooms or in the schools or in your wherever you work, that you already have and you never had to worry about. And now you're like, oh man, I have to worry about their environment. And I have one little one that I saw in person, of course, before all this happened. And we would go in, I would always turn off the overhead lights. I would shut the blinds, because I know the light was very distracting for him. And I would do that because I knew that he performed well without those things in the therapy room. And it never clicked to me that mom didn't do that at home. And so when our first teletherapy session, she had like these bright lights on, and he was like zoned in. And to me, I thought naturally the mom would have figured that out. But I had to be like, you know how I turn off the lights at therapy? Like, this is why. And of course, as soon as she turns off the lights, you know, he's focused in on his device. So I just thought that was very interesting too, because it's not your home. I don't think I would want somebody to tell me how to put my living room or whatever. But I also wanted a successful session. And then the parents started thinking about it later, you know, when we're in the bathroom, the lights are really bright in there. And I was like, yes, we need to think about those things while in our house. So that's been kind of cool too, to carry over those things.
Another thing I also have learned is trying to figure out, depending on what you're working on, where the parent needs to be seated relevant to where the child is seated.
Yes.
So I have a child that we use a lot of sign language, a lot of visuals with, and when we first started therapy, the parent would sit right next to the child. And when we would share our screen or show videos or different things, I was realizing that the child was not in tune to exactly what object I was talking about or what object we were pointing out. And so we quickly realized that we needed to transition that seating. And so the mom sits next to the screen. And sometimes it's harder to prompt. So if there's hand over hand needed, she may be going back and forth. But when I need her to really be able to point to the screen, I have her sit next to the screen so she can identify different objects on the screen, make the signs so that they're visually accessible to him. And then there's other times where it's more beneficial for her to be either next to him or behind him, doing some hand over hand. Things that probably naturally I would have done in my therapy session, but we had to kind of counsel and instruct the mom on.
Right.
And so that's kind of been a big one for me that we've had to really work on, depending on, again, the child, the needs, the activity that we're working on, where we need that parent to sit during that particular activity.
Or even where the device is. I had one child where the I-110 was on an unstable surface, and it was difficult because the mom had the phone with me on it, and then they were accessing the device, and the child was being successful, but the I-110 just kept going down. And I would have had a stable table in our therapy session. So it was just like, okay, well, what if you put it on the side table, or what if you put it here, and just playing around with how is accessible. And then, with the eye gaze device, making sure they're sitting, properly in a good distance where that can work. Just things that I learned a lot that I thought my parents were doing and they weren't doing. But now we have, again, even more carryover because we've gotten to see that home environment and try to talk through that. And the other thing is toys. We all were kind of thrown into this, and I am lucky enough to have 2 kids, and one's 11 and one's 8. So they've grown out of a lot of my baby toys, but they still had a lot of objects that I was able to use on hand, and I didn't have to go to the clinic when it was shut down. But I had to learn real quick, like, it doesn't matter what toy I had, it was what toy the parent had. So a lot of the time, those first sessions that I have with the parents are, okay, what do you have in your closet? What is his favorite things to do? What is the most motivating toy that they have that we can use with that? And, I know what's motivating at the clinic for him or her, what's motivating at home, and just having those next to the session or next to the device when it's about to start. And so the parent doesn't have to leave the child and go get it, that all the things were kind of ready to go.
Yeah. And another thing that has helped with that as well is, and I literally get a toy inventory from my families. I sit down, I write them out. What are some favorite things? And once I have that list in that session, we go on with our session. And then my homework at that point is then to sit down and identify, okay, what are some things that the parent can do at home to use these objects, to use whatever is of interest to that child, and target certain goals. And so then I've been able to outline some strategies to use, some ways to use their device during those activities, so that the parent can then use it week after week in therapy and outside of therapy.
Okay, so this, I have had to age expectations. So we talk about, just with typical language therapy, how long a kid can sit in a circle, how long a kid can sit on their bottom. So I had to really match that up. We have our sessions at at CHS. And so our teletherapy sessions are 50 minutes to an hour. To sit in front of a screen that long is pretty hard for a lot of my kids, especially with multiple disabilities. But it's easier for me at the center because I was able to change up activities. I was able to move around the room. I was able to just change scenery a little bit better, but you're stuck in front of this screen. So I had to really learn what the signs of exhaustion were for some of my kids, and that it was okay to stop some activities, take an eye, especially if they are using an eye gaze device. Maybe they need to shut their eyes for a couple minutes, and take a break if they're little. Understanding that their attention span is not going to be as long as you would like it to be, and I can't just distract them with the dog that barks and let them touch it. And so I saw parents getting frustrated with their own kids, because in their heads they're like, well, you do this, and I was doing it in virtual school with my kids. You do this with your teachers, why don't you do it right now? And I had to coach them and say, it's okay. Remember, this is not a normal thing for our children. Looking at a screen is not appropriate that long. And this can be very hard for them. So just taking breaks was a huge thing that I learned using technology. So I would use, first, we need to work on our core words, and then we can watch a Disney video. I put Disney clips because I kept finding these little YouTube videos with Olaf that the kids would like crack up to, and they just thought they were hilarious. And they were like these little snippets of Olaf doing silly things. And so it was such a great positive reinforcement for my kids. So I would put these breaks in a lot more than I would in a typical in-person session. And that's okay. And I still made it, I try to teach my students, like, this is not just a timeout of, okay, you're not doing anything. You can still model great language during these clips. And so your expectations for the child to come back and do that turn taking should stop. And it's just really you doing the modeling. And then we would use, I have some great parents who use visual schedules. I would print off, or when I would send the Zoom link, I would send maybe something from Lesson Picks, or something from Toby Donavox, or something on Word that I've made, or like a checkoff of what we were going to do, so that they could be prepared for that session. Activities online in real life. So in the beginning, some of my kids were gung-ho. They're like, yes, we get to be online. And then after like 2 months, they were like, I'm so tired of this. So I was like doing the PBS games. I was doing boom cards. I was doing all of these things, and it got exhausting for them. And so I really learned real quick that I needed to incorporate things like in real life that I'll show you in a second, with the games online. So I'm trying to teach my students now that I think that you could pull off a session with all online games, but I don't think that to keep the kids' attention and to keep going and learn functional vocabulary may be the best thing to do. So I think we should mesh a lot of things that are in real functional environment with online things. Movement within the session. Again, it's okay to take breaks. It's okay to go to the bathroom. It's okay to, let's sing a song and head, knees and shoulders or whatever. And again, just taking, the hardest thing was these parents who say, oh, they're on the floor now. What am I going to do now? And I say, that's okay, because guess what? If you want to be demanding, you want to say up, then we're going to push up, up, up. We're going to take advantage of these communication opportunities. Or, oh, you're sitting now. Oh, you're not listening. And so, we would just model this on our devices and just take advantage of those communication opportunities, because again, now parents are learning a lot more, and they're carrying over this in real life. And using distractions as functional communication. That's what I was just talking about. Like, that's okay, because this is normal. This is normal stuff. And guess what? Now we can do, core words are not going to be open, close, and, all this things that are so scripted in therapy in my in-person. But now we're like, sit down now. And just using that in your for functional communication.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That's everything I was going to say about that one. Yeah, I think it's definitely structuring your therapy session, and the way I have done it has changed so that I am allowing more of those breaks. But again, those breaks don't have to mean you're not targeting goals. It just might mean, hey, I want the parent and the child to maybe move away from the screen for a minute. I've given them an activity to work on. Maybe it's something very functional they've been doing at home. Maybe it involves something fine motor they've wanted to work on. It doesn't have to necessarily be all of your language goals. But they kind of move away from the screen. They work together. I'm there to guide and provide them with input as to what they could do, language the mom can model. So I'm still there and I'm still providing that service, but the child is not necessarily staring at the screen, whether it's a video or me. They've got some downtime, and then we come back. And I've seen a lot more success in being able to allow a child to make it that full 50 minutes as opposed to, oh my gosh, it's 40 minutes, 35 minutes in, and they're obviously done and the behavior is starting to come out. And so just structuring your sessions to where they have those consistent breaks, but still having the opportunity to work on language.
Yeah. Okay. So what I was talking about with toys and online activities and mixing it up, this is a little guy that is a great example of what the mom pulled, just an activity from home. It's Mr. Potato Head. And then we were actually using the online version of Mr. Potato Head. And so I just wanted to show this video, and we can go ahead and start this.
My potato. Okay, there's Miss Rachel's potato. There's Mace's potato. Okay, so we have. Ooh, we have eyes and ears. Mace, show me eyes. No, that's an ear. Let's try again. Where's his eye? One, please. One, please. Eye. Eye. Good job. Good. Eyes. Good job. Where do his eyes go? Oh, so close. Let's try again. Let's try again. Let's try it this way. Let's try it this way. Push, 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 push. Good job. There's his eye. Where's Mace's eye? Hey, where's Mace's eye? There's Mace's eye. Where's Mommy's eye? Where's Mommy's eye? I know. Where's your pointer? There's Mommy's eye. Good job. All right, watch Miss Rachel put her eyes on her potato head. My eyes. What? I see you with my eyes. Look, there's her potato head's eyes. Okay. Say wait, Mr. Potato. Say wait. Okay, what else do you have?
Oh, you can pause it on.
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted to.
Sorry. So this was really cool because, it gave this picture online. So say the clinician doesn't have Mr. Potato Head at the time, and it's reinforcing to Mace because he can see, the eyes did go in, and then mom can use it physically with the object. And so just mixing these things up, it didn't have to be, Mace has Snap, but it didn't have to be, Snap was on the side and we were just playing Potato Head online. It could be both things because it may be reinforcing for him to see that visually and then put it on the Potato Head as well. This mom is fantastic. She does everything we tell her to do, and it's incredible. And this kid's awesome. He's made so much progress. But so this was just an example, and this is a free boom card, that we used. I use this one a lot, actually.
I like that one. I've not seen that one. I might have to use it. Do you want to play more? Or do you want me to go on?
No, they can play it on whenever they want to. Okay, so this, we use Zoom at UT. So I understand that maybe that in wherever you are working, you may not have the professional version of Zoom, but I think that you should have all of these features in that. But of course, UT has given us professional licenses with these. So this is what I use in therapy. So sorry, you guys are in the way, so I'm going to move you. So just sharing your screen. So just like you saw that, we were just sharing that screen with the boom cards, throwing the mouse. So I have another child at the end where they work on an iPad and then their I-110 is on the side. And so just to get mom to do some hand over hand, and we'll do like the pop game from Curious George, and he has to pop the buttons. I can throw the mouse and give them the mouse and show them, and he can pop the game without mom having to load that game up. So that's been really useful. The whiteboard has been incredible, especially with my users who are learning literacy skills, because I feel like a lot of my kids they're just not willing to write a lot. And so to use your finger on the whiteboard to make letters, or to even scribble, or just to play with making letters has been a huge gain for my kids. So that's been very motivating. And then editing, like the annotating buttons, use, going ahead and deleting what they're doing, or making stamps. Say you did a lesson pick of vocabulary words or core words, and you can stamp them the way as you go through them. That's been really neat. So what I wanted to show you is we're going to talk about websites and social media in a second. And I have been using Boardmaker a lot, the online version. Again, I am not paid by Toby. I just have a lot of kids with Toby devices. But you could use this with anybody, I think. What I did in the very beginning of this is I did the free trial for 90 days. I do now have a subscription to it. It's $20 for a professional subscription a month. The university has actually just gotten a contract though with them that we can have it through our students now. But this has saved my life, and using this with the whiteboard with my kids has been really cool. So I wanted to show you, I think I'm sharing, but I'm not sharing. I'm just showing a blank screen to you guys. Hold on. So this is the Boardmaker online. Oh, it did switch over. So hopefully now I'm not paying $20 a month. Just noticed that. So so it has different curriculum. So this one, the Boardmaker Core First, I'm using with my kids who are solely working on core words. Boardmaker Reading Avenue, I'm working on my kids who are using core words and fringe words and learning to read. I haven't even gone to this part yet. I think this is so cool that they have vocabulary options that are that can grow with the child. So for example, with this, the repetition is awesome. It's so we'll start with a book. And it's loading. It's gonna load. Okay, maybe not coming up. That's okay. Why don't we go ahead? Well, okay, there we go. So there's a book that I will go through with the kid, and we'll talk about each of the words. We'll find the words on our device. We'll do a picture walk. And then the coolest thing is down here, it takes out the phoneme and the sight words that were really targeted during the story, and then we can search for them. So this is like alphabet board, so we can work on M, and then visual scene. It's this repetition of these phonemes that you didn't really have to make up these activities. They're right there. And then what I'll do is, especially if they have a Toby, they should have board maker access on their device. So I'll actually send these to the client before we go, and then they're able to work on it all through the week, and then they're ready to go. And I know that a lot of my parents with kids who are maybe in a CDC class, who, especially in the, when all this COVID started, that maybe it was just not easy for these kids to get online school or things like that. They were using these resources to kind of do their own basic homeschool during that time. And it was, we weren't digressing, we were actually progressing through some skills, or regressing, I should say, sorry. Okay, so then I'm going to get Autumn to show that video of that one little one.
I got it. I wish she would come back in PowerPoint mode every time. Just doesn't like to do it.
No. Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, caveat, this is like really in the beginning when I was really excited, so you'll watch me be crazy.
Well, we're done. All right, do you see this one, Lucy? I don't know. Here, let's see if we can match it. Do you see that one?
So the student is sharing it on their screen, and then the client, I've sent them all of these, so now the client's like showing me, like, I've got this on my device. And I can see that she's working through it.
Got it. Oh.
And so to me, I was like, yes, she did it on her own. Her mom's sitting next to her, but I was really proud of her for being able to match that.
Yeah. That's what. Okay, let's just start.
Use the letters to make different words that share the same spelling pattern. Words that share the same spelling pattern.
And so she's pushing it at the same time.
Going. Oh, well. Okay, let's pick a letter. I want Cali.
Uh-oh. Did I pause?
You're good.
Lucy, I think you need to pick a letter. Yeah, you gotta pick a letter. It's a little confusing. Okay.
Oh, it's time to mow the grass.
I guess. Yeah, I have to. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
She also can have touch access on the screen. So we were throwing the remote. So she was like, I'll do it for you.
Just like, this is a great example of using multiple different resources, throwing the remote as well.
Oh, there it is. Wait a minute. Let's find M. There you go. You know.
Oh. Mow the grass.
And the grass. Oh. You ain't talking about grass. It's time to mow the grass.
So we can stop it there. I feel like
Okay.
I'm freezing a lot. So am I frozen? Autumn, you're frozen. Am I frozen?
I am not. I mean, you're not.
Okay, good. It must be. So then what I would do is I'm going to share my screen now, and I am going to show you the whiteboard. So I would also say, okay, we worked on M. And so with her finger, I would say, okay, we're going to work on M. And so I would give her a model, and then she would work on the model, and we would do it in the air, and then we would do it on the whiteboard. And then, we were working on that pattern OW. And so we would just play around with it, and there was so much great repetition and so many natural ways to work on this on the whiteboard. She started, this little one gives me a run for my money, and she has started reading sight words successfully, and she has letter sound correspondence now, and it has been very cool. And she's also one that her mom laughed in my face when I said, it's time to go to teletherapy. And she said, yeah, right, Justina, like that's going to work. And I actually think it works way better than in person, because again, she didn't have to go in the car, get out of the car, go through this other building, and go in the room. It was in her natural environment. So that has been very cool. Autumn, your face is like frozen, so
I hope it's a pretty face.
it is not bad, but I'm like, I think where I'm on. But so that was one way of using all of those features on Zoom and through Toby, and to kind of work it out. And, you know, she didn't even have to have paper and pen, but she sure could go get paper and pen and work on it. The other resources that, so that was Boardmaker for websites. Practical AAC has been really awesome. Of course, there's Teachers Pay Teachers, Digital SLP. The biggest one that I am not a Facebook fan. I hate Facebook actually, but I do feel like this group, the group is literally called Teletherapy Materials for Speech Language Pathologists, has been super helpful. And they have new things every day. And I'm like, oh, my kid's working on that. I think I will take from that. What the other one was this YouTube idea that, Autumn, if you want to click on that. It's already 3:51.
I know. And you'll be able to access all this.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
No, but I'm not sure if I'm doing so hot on internet right now.
Mr. Clay.
But mine's going out. I can hear it. Can anybody else hear it?
What we're going to do today.
I can hear it, but I don't see it.
Hey, oh, it's
I don't know why it's like all of a sudden my.
Okay, Christina said they can hear it, but they cannot see it.
They hear it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'll just give you a visual if you want to stop screening or stop.
Fine. Something has
We're gonna blow out.
There we go. He's going 3 times in my
Oh no.
because I hadn't stopped sharing my the PowerPoint.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So if you want to try to pull.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to physically show you. So that YouTube clip was really cool. So it's just this guy who it's only for AAC, and he's just showing how to use typical props. And what he was doing was he puts a core word or whatever they're working on the screen, and then he'll model the language for it. And I had a client whose birthday was last week, and I just happened to go through his stuff. I was like, that's perfect. And we didn't necessarily need to work. He's working on counting the presents. I said, we don't need to work on counting, but I needed to work on like and open, or I don't want it. And so I just took from him, and, you know, I have gift bags at my house and tissue paper. And this was something extremely motivating for the client because it was all about her. It was about her birthday. What I want to say is, like, I'm not coming up with these on my own. I'm taking from all these resources. So that's really what we wanted to share. But it was, you know, Layla, it's your birthday. Let's see. What's in here? What should we do? What should we do? And I said, I think we should open. And then her mom would model open, and she uses eye gaze. So they opened up the core words, and they would go to open, and she would select open. I said, okay, all right, Layla, we'll open. Let's see what's in it. You know, I know that she's 15. I know she probably likes lip gloss. Well, I've got lip gloss. So I'll say, oh, would you like this for your birthday? Would you like that? Or you don't like that. And so she would select, I like it, I don't like it. And we would just go through these presents with stuff that I had on hand that I knew that would be motivating for her. But I just thought it was so cool that who knew YouTube could be so awesome, and not just for little boys who like to play video games.
Right.
That's my YouTube. Before COVID, that was my YouTube exposure. So my screen is completely black now.
I know it's lost me.
Okay.
I think that's back now though.
Oh, now we're echoing.
Something's going on.
Okay, let's see. So maybe if I try to share it, should I do that? Oh, is she completely gone? Am I on my own, guys? Okay, so let me try to share this PowerPoint then. Okay, I'm hoping you guys can see that. This is nice. Let me go down a little bit more. So these were the online materials that we wanted to share with you. Also, YouTube has been really cool for literacy. You know, again, I wasn't, oh, there you are. I can't, you're muted. I didn't have my full library of books in my office. My kids, again, are 8 and 11, so I have, Junie B. Jones chapter books, but I might have gotten rid of Goodnight Moon. And so YouTube has been awesome about getting those resources. And we've found books and Scholastic.com. Scholastic.com actually had lesson plans with units that went with the books. That was really cool. I'm all big into units and themes, so that was very exciting to me.
That Unite for Literacy is another one that almost it's laid out almost by units. And so something that we can do is if you're going by units, then you can supplement with some of those books that you can screen share, because sometimes parents don't have access to a wide range of books in their home. So the online has been amazing to be able to screen share those books, go through them, and apply them to our lesson plans that we're doing.
And then, I guess it's a good thing now, and before we were all just like, get off the devices. But that these kids and families are going to more likely go on YouTube than the library. So give them a resource on YouTube that you can give them print awareness, that you can give them great syntax, that we still talk about the author, we still talk about the title, we still talk about the parts of books. So give them that at least. I've missed this language one. This is another thing. We call them units at CHS, themes. This lady, she took like all the work out right here, and I'm afraid to even push on it because
I was gonna say, if you stop screen share, I think I can do it again. And
okay.
We're about out of time anyway. I had to just tell my child to get off of.
Oh,
he's next door on all of the devices. We got Alexa going, and we're
back to turning off devices.
Playing our Xbox. Texting my husband, get him off the devices. Real world over here. So what's going on? Okay, it should let us link. I know I'm a little nervous too, but
that's okay.
Let's see. Let's do this. I'm going to stop, and I'm going to go in here. I'm going to make this work.
I mean, this lady is awesome. We in CHS, we use a lot of units, so so we don't miss vocabulary. We've talked about fall vocabulary, we talk about Halloween vocabulary, we talk about winter vocabulary, and so and we have these huge boxes at CHS. And for me, I was like, where's my boxes? And this lady has kind of taken our boxes, and she doesn't know about us, but she has made her own themes, and they're very relatable. Like one's a pirate theme, one is snow theme, but she's taken all these resources online, like these games, specific PBS games that you might want. And she has all this stuff that you can just pull from.
Okay, showing it right now. You see it?
Yeah. Yes.
This is the blog.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so if you follow the link that I have in the PowerPoint, it will take you more to the, she's got freebies.
Mhm.
Let's see if it'll change. But yeah, I found her website extremely helpful. Printables, and there's printables that you can send to the parents, which is nice.
And I haven't had anything where, it said, oh, let's buy a kit or anything like that. It's all been free.
Yes, it is. So like here's the beach theme, activities for syntax. So there's a wide range of targets too. It's not just grammar. It's not just speech sound. There's a very wide range of things.
I guess, should we just go to the kind of, what I wanted to show you was another video of our little one, he's motorically, he has a little small range of motion, and he needs mom to do a little bit of hand over hand right now. He's getting better at being spontaneous at selecting targets, but we're still guiding through that process. And so this is,
let's see. And then we can kind of wrap up there.
Yeah.
All right. I think I've got it pulled up now.
So he really loves Taylor Swift. So to say more and all done is really easy because Taylor Swift is very motivating to him. So that's why that's the Taylor Swift video. Let's see.
Is it playing on your screen?
No.
I don't know what's going on with my computer. It's failing all of a sudden.
That's okay. That's okay. It should be on the PowerPoint that will go. So it's not a big deal. So just mom would sit right next to him. Like usually when we were in person, he would be in his wheelchair, but he can prop up on the couch. His mom's got him supported and he's sitting up straight. They've got a table in front of him. Mom's here, and mom has like her iPad and her device. And so he has a field of two, and he was actually popping the bubbles. And then it was another PBS game maybe. And then mom would say, okay, now we're done with this. Do you want more or all done? And we would guide mom to say, okay, now watch his eyes. What is he looking at? Because we're still working on getting that movement to touch the device. And mom is so in tune to him. And so she's like, oh, you want more? Okay, let's do more. And then she would do hand over hand and select it on the device. So that's been cool. And honestly, so what I would do in person therapy with Taylor Swift, because he loved it so much, I would have it on my phone just playing. And now I'm like, oh, look, you get the whole video experience.
Yeah.
So there's lots of cool things that have definitely come out of teletherapy. But I'm not going to lie, there's some kids that I'm like, oh, please come back to in person. But it's just awesome how our field has come together, and I feel like our field has done so well. We haven't missed a beat.
Yeah.
And we are providing these services, and thank goodness during with Toby and Prolo Quo and all of these things that are on iPads and Chromebooks, it's a horrible time, but at least we have all this technology to use.
You have the technology, yeah. And it's all about just bringing it all together and kind of looking at all the moving parts, I think has been the biggest takeaway from this, to see what we can put together to make it work, and using all of the resources that we have available to us to see what's going to work best. So, all right. I know we are like 4 minutes over, I think 3 minutes over. All of these resources will be available. I know our presentation will be available. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out, email us. we could talk forever about all the fun things we've been doing on telehealth.
Yeah, we really could.
Yeah.
Love to do it in person though.
We do.
Oh, can you unmute me when you are finished? Sure, Leanne Harbor. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions, or I don't know if the moderator wants us to do anything.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let me, I guess.
I guess that's, I don't know.
Okay. Well, I guess we're good. Oh. Thanks, Monk.
All right. Well, you all, thank you for joining us. Have a great weekend. And I hope everybody got a lot out of the last 2 days. I know I did.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I don't know. I unmuted.
I did, Leanne.
Leanne. Yeah.
I don't know if we need to do anything else, though.
I don't know.
It shows her unmuted on here.
Okay. I bet. It's like, it's the end of TAAT and it's Friday and all the computers in the world are like, no more.
We're done.
Yeah.
But mine just completely failed. I've got Taylor Swift on both screens now, though. I'll tell you. I can't believe y'all couldn't see it. Taylor Swift is on both screens.
I guess Leanne's probably still having a really hard time.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Mine too.
Can you talk, Leanne, now, or are you okay? Or
Yeah, is that her?
no, I thought you were her.
Oh. I don't think we need to do anything else, but
Oh, she is.
Okay, so we just stop the recording. I can do that.
Oh, okay.